Hey, everybody, it is Scott Steen with winnersandwhiners.com coming to you with the Wednesday edition of Today in Sports Betting,
Bonus episode.
baseball style. Huh?
Bonus episode.
Bonus episode. That's right. Bonus episode. Little hump day bonus episode. That's right. We're going to talk a little baseball, Scott, for the next 3 days. As you and I, we just talked about it seems like deja vu because we did this on a radio show too. Radio show. That's right. We're on the radio. Make sure you check us out every day at 4 p.m. on WWPR 1490 out of Tampa. Check it out. If you're not in the Tampa area, check it out on your computer because you can get it that way too. Scott, we're going to look at the East. The East, my friend. The American League East and the National League East. We're going to look at both of them because that's how we roll. We're going to talk about their odds to win the division. We're going to talk about their win totals and where you see everybody kind of stacking up. So let's get rolling, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay. Let's start with the American League East. Yanks are going to win, Scott. Prohibitive favorites. They walk away with it. It's all over. Next division.
Sounds
National
pretty good.
League.
That sounds pretty good to me. I know that we're going to actually go through each team. I know he's making a joke here, but do you actually think that there is a team that's going to dethrone the Yankees? I know both of us are pretty high on one team in particular to potentially give them a run.
Yep.
I still think the Yankees are the best team in the division. I know that this team has some questionable starters in the rotation, but my argument there is so does every other team in the division. So I feel like from top to bottom, if you actually just look at this team, of course, the payroll being so huge definitely helps matters, but this team from top to bottom, I think, is the best team all around in the AL East. So you're looking at around minus 200, minus 175. I think if you're taking anybody else, you're taking a stab for value, but I think the Yankees will win the division.
Yeah, it really is hard to argue with that. The team that you and I like, spoiler alert and bad news for our folks down in Tampa, it's not the Rays. It's not the Rays at all. I can't believe the Rays are the third favorite, Scott. I've got them plus 500 to win the division, 91.5 for the win total, by the way.
I see it split. I see DraftKings has the Rays as the second choice, but they're actually tied with the third choice. So
okay,
a little bit of a split there.
What's the win total?
The win total for Tampa or for
for Tampa.
So the win total for Tampa is, let me see this. It's 85.5. According to DraftKings, 85.5.
Now, see, shop your lines because Bet Online had it 91.5, and I thought that was.
Is that still there?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I mean, that's just worth blindly playing for a middle there any day of the week.
I think I must have been drunk when I wrote these down because I got some horrifically wrong when I was transferring these. So I might have, I don't know. Anyway,
I see 85.5 on Bet Online. So 85.5 is the number.
All right. Anybody 91? Where did I even grab that from? Because I literally just copied and pasted. Oh well. Be that as it may, I like under 91.5 better. I got to tell you.
That is really, really fair. But anyway,
how do you win when you trade all your pitchers, Scott? When all your pitchers leave, you not necessarily traded them, but they left.
Well, I feel like before we actually get into the team that we like as a potential dark horse sleep, I'd say spoiler alert, it's Toronto. But looking at Tampa, the issue I have with this team is that, of course, everyone knows how good the rotation and the pitching staff was last year.
They're really
good. Wait, what?
Yeah, they were really good.
Yep. However, you had Blake Snell, who not only got pulled too early in the playoff game, but he also got shipped off from the actual organization.
He's gone.
And you also ended up losing Charlie Morton, who was one of the pitchers. He's gone too.
Yep.
So now your replacement options were Michael Wacha, Chris Archer, Rich Hill.
Yeah.
In any particular order. Now Archer, of course, has some dynamic stuff, which is another way of saying he hasn't figured it out yet, but he could be good. That's really what that means. It's a second stint with Tampa. First stint didn't go too well. I don't exactly have high hopes for Archer. I think he'll be a decent 3 or 4. Rich Hill, I feel like, is a 5 innings or nothing guy at this stage in his career. And Wacha was a batting practice pitcher last year who was just awful. So I don't really buy into that. But Glass now is a 1, I think is fine. He's a little bit inconsistent with his control, but he's pretty good. Yarbrough is a pretty good option as well. The bullpen is still going to be the bread and butter of this team. So if Tampa can grab a lead through 6, they should be pretty good. Of course, you have a Rosarena, who's very good. The rest of the lineup, How do you describe this lineup? I'd say mediocre but borderline streaky. Is that a good way to summarize the lineup?
Yeah, they have a potential to go on one of those 10-game runs where they score 10-game gaps, groups of games where they score about 30 runs, about 25 runs, something like that, where they just can't get anything going. So.
Yeah. So based on Tampa, the main thing that I have an issue with is that even though the bullpen should be able to shut it down late, with that rotation, a lot of question marks, and the lineup is streaky as well. So at 85.5, I actually think that's a pretty good number. I don't really have any interest in the over-under there. I just think that Tampa should finish somewhere around there. I think it'll lean over because I still like the actual management, and I do think that even though Cash kind of butchered the World Series, I still like him as a manager. I would lean over, but I think you're looking at somewhere between 84 and 87, so I think that's pretty close.
Yeah. And you've got 85.5 on Toronto also?
I see 87.5 on Toronto on Bet Online.
Okay, well, there's my 85.5. When you do these, you got to figure out where the wins are going to come from because they play 76 games in their own division. So if they're picking up wins, you got to figure out where they're going to come from. Now, obviously, you and I both agree they're going to come from the B-Boys. They're going to come from Baltimore, and they're going to come from Boston. I've got 80.5 for Boston. Is that what you have?
For Boston, yeah, around there. I see mostly, 80.5 is about right.
I'm an under there on Boston. I think they're somewhere in the neighborhood of 73 to 74.
So we're going completely out of order here. Yeah, sure. I like.
Yeah, we're just kind of ripping through. I'm just trying to figure. Well, because they're correlated. They're not standalone bets.
I think Boston could actually take a couple of games off of Tampa because if we talked about how Tampa's offense is going to go through some streaks, Boston might not be a good team, but this lineup can score runs.
Yeah, you might have to play the over there, at least Boston team total over because I don't like this pitching again.
Not for win totals, but for actual individual games. I think them and Toronto are going to be clear overs pretty much the entire season.
All right, so now that we've babbled about the East, let's do it in order. Yanks 195. You in or out at minus 195 or minus 175? I think is the best price we found.
I got to assume the Yankees win the division, so I'll go yes.
Okay, 95.5. You over or under?
I got to go over. I think that at the end of the day they'll probably win around 97.
Okay. Yep. I'm pretty much with you on that. Toronto plus 350. You buying or selling there?
I like Toronto as a sleeper. I don't think the odds are high enough.
I'd like 450.
450 or 5 is what I'd look for.
You find me 450, I'll play that.
I said this on the radio show, though. If I actually like the Yankees, I wouldn't bet 175 now. The logic I would have is that if you don't find value, you can wait a week into the season. You have a team that maybe starts out 2-7, and you go, "Oh, this team's falling apart. Line's dropping."
Maybe I think there's a good chance Judge or Judge or Stanton gets hurt in the first week. So
you just look through and it's like, oh, the Orioles randomly 7-3. Look at that, and it's like, yeah, they're going to be terrible. It's fine, but
the Orioles did that for 2/3 of the season last year.
But the point is that people might look at the actual updated division lines and go, well, maybe it's time to jump in, but in reality, it's a good time to buy low or low-ish at minus 160, minus 150 on the Yankees.
Yeah, I was going to say you might be able to get 2 to 3 on the Yankees. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's how I would look at it. So I wouldn't take the Yankees at this price. I would wait and hope the Yankees get off to a slow start and then maybe jump in after a week or two.
And you could use the same strategy with Toronto too, because that's a really, really young team. We talked about the depth that they have and some of the moves that they made.
I got to give them an A for the offseason. I thought they were one of the biggest winners of the offseason.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Bringing in Simeon and bringing in Springer. Those are two pretty big gets.
The rotation is still a massive question mark. And the bullpen's also not great either. So it's mostly pitching, which is why I said Toronto will be a dead over team this season. But through the lineup here, I heard rumors Guerrero lost about 20 to 30 pounds, so maybe he'll be in better shape and stay healthy. Simeon's a very good second baseman. Still got Biggio, still got Bichette, you got George Springer now. You still have Hernandez in the outfield, who was leading the league in home runs for a little while. This team just absolutely rakes. And the question is, can the pitching hold up? Because right now your second starter is either Rourke or Robbie Ray. So, yeah, not a good rotation at all. But this lineup is still really, really good. And I do think Toronto will benefit from making the playoffs last year. Yes, they got swept, but for a young team, I think you'd agree that it's a nice little experience for them to say that there are brighter things on the horizon. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and they've got they've got Tyler Chatwood that's waiting in the wings, and I would imagine. Can you imagine facing Robbie Ray and Tyler Chatwood on back-to-back days?
It's a dream come true. And then you got Steven Matz on day 3 of the of the series.
Although Chatwood kind of cut down on his walks, he had a couple seasons where he was just he couldn't keep from walking guys.
The truth is, every year with him, it's flip a coin. That's what it is. You're basically flipping a coin if he'll keep his walks down or not. Robbie Ray is about 75% going to have walk issues.
One of those guys with great stuff. All right, so I'm waiting for a better price. I'm hoping the kids get off to a slow start. And everybody says, "Oh, Toronto sucks. It doesn't make any difference," and then they put it together. I'm waiting for 4.5 to 5 there.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
I'll play the over 85.5.
I agree.
Tampa Bay, 85.5 there. You're over as well.
I'm leaning over, but truth is, it's kind of just a pass. Like, I think that line is pretty spot on.
350 for Toronto or Tampa Bay. Who you betting?
I have no interest in Tampa at plus 350. So it would either be Toronto or nothing there. But realistically, I just don't really understand why some people are still high on this Tampa team. I know that Cash was a solid manager and that this team ended up really going on a very, very great run in an abridged season. I know that this team's good, but the main reason why this team was good was because of the starting rotation. And the rotation isn't good pretty much at all. Now, I know that the rest of the division, I just mentioned Toronto's rotation. I know that I'm going to sound like a hypocrite, but Tampa's offense is a lot worse than Toronto's from top to bottom. So
no question.
Unless Tampa is able to manufacture 5 innings a game from the starting rotation and let the bullpen come in with leads, they're going to have some problems because this team isn't exactly built to come from behind.
No, agreed. And then we get into the kind of the slums of the American League East, as we've got Boston plus 2,200, 80.5 there. No, and under is what I think here. This is another dreadful rotation. Evalde Eduardo Rodriguez, still waiting for him to be the pitcher that everybody thinks he's going to be.
Rodriguez was great 2 years ago. He skipped the last year for health issues.
Well, was he great? How did he end up?
I know his record was phenomenal. I know he got a decent amount of run support there, but I'll search it up right now. But anyway, you can just continue.
Well, then they bring in Gary Reschers, they bring in Nick Pivetta, Martin Perez, another one of those guys is a classic underachiever.
He was 19-6 in 2019.
But what was it? What were his peripherals?
3.81 ERA.
Okay, all right. I didn't think he sustained it the whole year. I thought he fell off the cliff after the All-Star.
I like him. Now you have to wonder though, if Chris Sale will come back this year at any point. His contract is complete albatross, but if you're paying him that much money, you better hope he shows up.
Well, what kind of shape is he going to be in?
That's the question. He's still coming back from the serious arm injury, so you got to wonder if he comes back at all. All-Star break?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I think that's optimistic.
It is very optimistic. I'm just saying, best case scenario is probably All-Star break.
Yes.
And if you're looking at the Red Sox for a 20-1 shot, you probably need him to come back within, I don't know, what, June-ish, something like that. If you
certainly by mid-June, and you're going to need him to come back in top-notch form too.
Now, to be clear, Boston was awful last year. Some of that was the fact that their manager was a joke, and I do think Alex Cora is a good manager. Win total's at 80.5. I gotta like the under. I can't expect this team to go 500. I'm just looking at the actual roster here. They made a couple of moves. I respect that they're trying, I guess, to bring back some pieces. I know Rodriguez coming back is huge. Getting Cora back definitely helps as a manager. But this bullpen is so bad.
It's awful.
They've done absolutely nothing to address it besides picking up Ottavino, and he was terrible with the Yankees last year. But you're looking at Barnes as your closer.
Yep.
You still kept Brasier in the bullpen. You got Bryce. You got nothing in the bullpen there. And the
Yep.
rotation we already talked about. You're gambling on Richards, who gets injured all the time. Perez, who's okay. Pavetta, I don't even think should be in the league. I think I've been a very anti-Pavetta for years.
I know you have.
And Eovaldi's injured all the time. So the pitching's a joke. The lineup, I think, is actually okay. Devers had a bit of a down year, but he's still good. Bogarts is solid. Verdugo gets injured a decent amount, but he's still good. They picked up Renfroe, who I'm not sold on. JD Martinez, who's well past his prime. I do think Bobby Dahlbeck is potential Rookie of the Year candidate, though. I do think he's very good, and I think Vasquez is a good catcher. But I'm looking at this team, and it's kind of like Toronto, where they have to outscore teams, and Toronto's lineup simply better than Boston. So if I'm looking at the actual win total here, based on process of elimination, I think Boston's going to have a losing record against the Yankees, against Tampa, and against Toronto. So I got to like the under.
Yep, I agree.
I think it'll be close. I think they'll probably finish in the mid 70s, but I'll go under.
Okay.
Baltimore. You think 76 is about accurate?
I think in the I called it mid 70s as well. I said 73, 74, I think. So I'm going to stick with that. Baltimore 7,500, 63 and a half. I like the over in the wins. I like the and again, I said this on the radio show. I'd rather play Baltimore at 7,500 than I would Boston at 2,200 to win the division.
At that point, you're basically throwing out fun coupons anyway. Nobody's actually expecting to win with any of those bets.
Nope.
But I like the under for Baltimore. This team's bad. It's a matter of the fact that this team definitely overachieved in the first half and then completely imploded. And the only difference there is that what they did in the second half is what everyone thought they would do for the entire year. But you look at this team here, what am I actually optimistic about besides the fact that Mancini's back? Great for him. Happy that he came back from cancer, and he's still a very good player. You got Mountcastle, who I do really like. You have Santander, who I think is very good. But the rest of the team here, I mean, the rotation's an absolute joke. Means, who was good a couple of years ago, was awful last year, injured all the time.
You're gonna have to have a snapback year from Means for them to have, for you to have any shot of.
That's your one. I think Dean Kramer is actually a pretty good pitcher. I think he actually showed signs. If Jorge Lopez, who you know a lot about, I don't think you're a big fan of Jorge Lopez.
Had his moments, but not enough of them. Yeah.
You got him, you got Aiken, you got a couple of young guys. They're basically just gambling on a bunch of young prospects to help fill the void, both in the rotation and the bullpen. Quick question. You know who the closer is for the Orioles?
Dylan Tate, my friend.
It's either Dylan Tate or Tanner Scott, and I'm sure nobody listening probably ever heard of those two guys. That's the rotation and the bullpen that this team has. Now, the lineup, do you trust Maikel Franco? I don't. I know he has some power, but he usually bats around 230 and gets injured halfway through the year.
That's what he did with the Royals. They had him last year on a 1 year. And
is that a good way to sum up his career? He'll usually have some RBIs, bat 230, get injured for about a month, come back, play well, and then fall apart again. It's kind of what he does. You have Galvis. You got Severino at catcher. There's just no spots in this team I actually like besides Mountcastle and Santander. And assuming Mancini, I don't want to sound harsh, but assuming he's the same guy post-cancer that he was pre-cancer.
Yeah.
And I can't gamble on this team being good. So I think Baltimore is going to be awful. What's the win total that you said?
63 and a half.
I like the under. I think this team is going to be, I see 64 and a half on DraftKings. I think this team will probably be pushing 100 losses. I don't know if they're going to get there, but I think this team will be really, really, really bad. And if you're looking at the actual win totals here, how many games is Baltimore actually going to be favored in this season? Out of 162, what do you think? Like 25?
Yeah, that's probably close. I mean, 25 to 35 probably.
Every game in this division, I'm going to think that they're going to lose. I can't do it.
Well, they're not, so.
I know, but I'm saying just there's no matchup I'm going to look at them and go, I like him in this spot. Like, no, I can't do it. I got to go with the under. I think this Baltimore team's awful.
All right, let's go on to the NL East.
Fangraphs gave the Orioles a 0.0% chance of making the playoffs. They looked at math and said everything's somewhat possible except the Orioles making the playoffs. This is not going to happen. So I got to assume that they know some of what they're talking about. I like the under. This team's going to be awful.
So you're saying there's a chance?
No, actually, Fangraphs is saying there is no chance. Anyway, I'm very low on the Orioles this year.
The NL East, Scott. I've got Atlanta plus 125, 91.5. What a rotation. Hey, we found Charlie Morton, by the way.
Yeah, if you didn't know, he went to Atlanta.
Max Fried, Charlie Morton, Ian Anderson, Drew Smiley, and eventually Mike Soroka. Kyle Wright for now.
That's so ridiculous. I mean, it's not as good as the Dodgers rotation because that rotation is arguably the best rotation in the history of the sport, but it'll rival with those Orioles teams back with Palmer and those guys.
I was going to say, you haven't been watching baseball that long.
I was going to say the Orioles with Palmer, that's definitely up there as well. But in recent memory, that's an all-time rotation. But this Atlanta one is probably the second best rotation in the league when healthy.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. There's really no.
It's hard to argue. It's hard to argue with that. It really is. You and I, we're both on Ian Anderson. We both love this kid. Soroka was just a money maker for us last year before he got hurt. He was money in the bank.
Yep. What's the flaw in this team besides basically having no setup, man? They lost Darren O'Day. They still have Will Smith as a closer, who is still pretty good. You got Martin, Minter. That's the issue is the bullpen, which you could definitely address at the trade deadline or, honestly, just by trading somebody early on. Offensively and just from a rotation and position player perspective, this is one of the most complete teams in the league.
Yeah, it really is. And there's when you have to worry about your middle relief, that means you're
in a pretty good spot.
You're probably in a pretty good spot. Yeah, that's kind of an old axiom of baseball. But yeah, it's hard to find a real flaw in this lineup. They've got Darnold back. You just go through and yeah, I mean, we'll see what Austin Riley does. We'll see what Pache does, but they've got enough guys around them. They picked up Ozuna this year, so
they have no DH. They got to find a way to stick him.
Well, they're going to put him in left field, dude.
Yeah, they're going to stick him in left field, but he's an awful fielder. But he should play every day, which is interesting because you also have Christian Pache, who's supposed to be one of the top prospects in baseball. So this team really has a plethora of riches. And if this team chooses to maybe go all out for even another race, this team actually has the resources to do it. Or if they want like an elite closer, if they want to go for somebody, they can really pull it off. So this team should be buyers at the deadline.
What do you got on the Nationals?
You talk about for win totals?
So you like them to win the division plus 125?
I like them to win the division. I like the over. I think this team has 95 to 100 wins written all over.
I like the over there a lot. I've got a dark horse for the division, as I always do.
I see the Braves at 91.5 plus 105 on DraftKings. Sure.
Lock that up.
Like the over there.
What do you got on the Nats?
So for the Nationals, I see 84.5 minus 112 on both sides.
What's their division odds?
Division odds on DraftKings is let me see this.
We said it was 350.
I see 6-1.
What's that?
6-1.
6-1. All right.
I mean, we kind of went out of order because people have the Mets coming in second, but we'll do the Nationals first.
Well, I've got the Nats coming in second, so that's another rotation that I really like. Scherzer, Corbin and Strasburg at the top with Lester and Joe Ross. When Lester's your 4, yeah, I think you're in pretty good shape.
We have very, very different opinions on this team.
Yeah, I know we do, and I really like their lineup too. I think it can hit. You're worried about which Josh Bell we're going to get, and that's certainly true. But picking up Josh Bell and picking up Schwarber, they've got Brad Hanley brought in from Cleveland as the closer. They do still have Ryan Zimmerman as DH, so I don't know what they do with that.
I thought he retired, but ESPN still has him listed as a coach, so maybe they talk him back into another farewell tour.
Yeah, but they also have arguably one of the best players in baseball in Juan Soto. So
I'm a huge Soto guy, so you don't have to sell me on Soto.
But I want to sell you on Soto though.
You can. I said that Soto was a better player than Bryce Harper the year that they won the World Series. So I was very, very early to the party. That was actually one of the hottest takes I've ever had, and it actually aged pretty well.
Well,
But
that's my second place team right there. I'll take them at plus 600, and I'll take over 84.5.
yeah, so I'm selling on this team.
Okay.
We have very, very different opinions, and the main reason why is I don't think Strasburg can stay healthy.
Yep.
That's the main issue I have. Even Scherzer's had injury issues the last couple of years. I know Strasburg had carpal tunnel surgery during the offseason. If Strasburg stays healthy, I agree with you that this team should end up pushing, I'd say 88 wins. I think that's a fair number, maybe borderline 90.
Yep.
Like, assuming they stay healthy, but I just don't see it. Strasburg gets injured all the time. I know that they had to pay him. It was either him or Rendon. Strasburg won World Series MVP, so they ended up choosing him. They ended up getting Lester as the fourth option in the rotation, which I do like. Lester is maybe not a good number one, but as a number four, it's definitely a solid option.
Yeah.
And I also like the acquisition of Brad Hand. I'll give him
Yep.
props to actually pick up a closer that they can trust. But Scherzer and Strasburg have really had injury issues for the last couple of years. And Corbin, bit of a down year last year. I think he'll bounce back, but there's a chance he doesn't. I think that this rotation on paper is supposed to be one of the best in the league. There's a lot of question marks there. And I do think the lineup is pretty good. Soto, of course, is nuts. Kyle Schwarber is pretty much all power. That's really pretty much all he does. I'm not a fan of Keyboom at third base. He's a prospect that people keep trying to sell me on. I don't think he's very good. You have Sterling Castro, who I think is okay as well. Bell's a question mark with upside. I like Turner a lot, but I think this team's pretty good. I think they'll finish around 500. So I'm not really in on the Nationals this year.
Who's your second place team?
I'm going to go with the Mets. I feel like I kind of have to. It was either going to be the Mets or the Phillies. I think that they're going to be really, really close to each other. But at the end of the day, I look at the Phillies, and I know you asked me about the Mets. I look at the Phillies, though, and that bullpen, I know that they got Bradley. I still have serious concerns about that pitching staff.
What do you have for a number on the Mets?
Are you talking about for division or for win total?
For division, well, both.
So for division, it's around the same number as the Braves. I see the Mets at around plus 140.
Yeah.
I see the Phillies at around even like 8.5 to 1.
Yeah, I got it at 725. So
I think 850 is worth a flyer on the Phillies if you want to actually take a shot. Because this team, the bullpen was awful last year. If every game last year was a doubleheader, 7 innings long, the Phillies might have actually finished like a winning percentage of like 70%. Because their bullpen blew so many games. They're on pace to be arguably the worst bullpen in the history of the sport. So this team was actually pretty good for the first 7 innings of every game. Bradley does help, but you have Neris as your setup guy. You have Jose Alvarado, who I think is okay. I don't really like the bullpen anyway. The lineup's still really good with Realmuto, with Hoskins, Gregorius. You have McCutchen, Harper, of course. Team's good when it comes to hitting. But also, I don't know what you think of Joe Girardi. I think he's a pretty good manager. Last year, I'm not going to blame him for the bullpen being terrible. A manager can only do so much. But you look at the Mets on paper. Of course, this team was really, really desperate to get Bauer, and Bauer trolled them before not going, and he ended up going to the Dodgers instead. You look at the lineup, though, very good. Picked up McCann, picked up Lindor. Dominic Smith was very good last year. You still got Conforto. You picked up VR, which should also help out. The bullpen's still a huge question mark. Diaz is still your closer. Still Familia back there. You got Betances, who looked awful in spring training. Lugo's still there as well. The rotation's pretty good, though. DeGrom, Carrasco, Stroman, Taijuan Walker as well. I think the Mets and the Phillies will go head-to-head for second place.
I would 100 times rather play the Phillies at 850 than I would the Mets at 140.
I agree. So if I had to bet
I think that's being driven by New York money.
If I had to bet on a long shot, I would take the Phillies because they're just better value. If you ask me my honest opinion about where I think these teams are going to finish, I get the Mets coming in second, the Phillies coming in third.
All right, I've got.
I don't know where the value is on the Mets. Atlanta's a better team than the Mets, and I don't think that you can really trust a Mets team that has found ways to completely fall apart every single year, with the exception of the World Series run that they had.
Yeah, absolutely true. And I've got it again. I'm higher on Washington than you are. I've got Atlanta, Mets, Washington, Philly. And then the other team that we needed to talk about.
Yeah, so the only thing we're changing is we're flipping Phillies with Nationals.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I like the Nationals to make a run more than you do.
Do you think Martinez is actually a good manager for the Nationals? Because I don't.
Hard to say because he's always had such good talent just about wherever he goes.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think he's a very good manager. Now, I don't know what to think of the Mets manager. I don't know if Rojas is any good. Girardi actually has some pedigree, so I know what I'm getting with Girardi, which I feel like has a little bit of comfort there. And I think you'd agree, worst case, mediocre average manager. Best case, slightly above average.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
That's fair.
So, yeah, that's why I feel like the tiebreaker in the division, I'll go with the manager I actually know what to expect.
Well, let's go with the surprising team from last year, Scott. Snuck through into the playoffs. It's the Miami Marlins. They're plus 4,071.5. The win total. Bakota has them thudding back to earth, as do the bookmakers as well.
I can't blame them.
I don't hate their rotation. I got to be honest with you. They always seem to put up nice young pitchers. They've got Sandy Alcantara, Pablo Lopez.
One of my favorite pitchers.
I like Pablo Lopez a lot.
Oh, not him. I meant Sixto.
Oh, and then Sixto. Yeah, absolutely. Both. I like Lopez and Sanchez. Both those guys are great pitchers. This is a team that has found the pitcher tree.
I think Hernandez is also pretty good.
Yeah, and Elisa Hernandez is a very good pitcher. But that's the good news about the Marlins. Tell us the bad news, Scott.
The bullpen. I don't even know what they're trying to do with the bullpen.
No.
The projected closer, according to ESPN.
Rocky Blyer's kid.
Anthony Bass. Now, some of you are wondering, who? And that's the correct question to ask, because a lot of people don't know who this guy is. Last year at a 3.51 ERA, but this team really just doesn't have a guy that you can trust in the ninth inning. And you can name the entire bullpen. Richard Blyer, talking about Yimi Garcia, Dylan Floro, Adam Simber, people might remember from the Cleveland, but John Curtis. You mentioned a bunch of names, and if you're a casual fan or even a mediocre level fan, you probably never heard of any of these guys. And that's the entire bullpen.
Yeah, you got guys that you don't know if you can trust them in the ninth.
Yeah.
You might be able to, but they certainly haven't proved it in the past. So yeah, and I also don't love their lineup. That was actually the opening you were supposed to take.
The thing is, I actually think their lineup's not that bad. So that's why I know we both agree that the bullpen's bad. We differ on the lineup. So that's why I started with the bullpen. I'm going to work from there.
You're higher on them than I am. But I'm not. I'm not high on the lineup.
Can I ask what players you're exactly against in the lineup, or which ones you don't trust?
I'm not a fan of their catcher. I think you need a better catcher than Alfaro.
Okay.
I'm going down the list here. I like Anderson, all right. Duvall, we've talked about. Sterling Marte, sure. I'm not the biggest Corey Dickerson fan.
I don't like Dickerson at all. I think that's probably my weakest link on this team. If I had to just pick one, Alfaro is definitely not far behind, or he's maybe equal with Corey Dickerson in terms of players that I'm not a big fan of. But I'm just going to say it. I actually like the over on the Marlins win total.
Yeah.
I think 71.5 is a little bit too low. This team, don't get me wrong, they're not going to compete for a division. Last year was a bit fluky. But I actually kind of like this lineup, because you look at the Marlins last year, Miguel Rojas, who's one of the best players at shortstop, opted out of the year. And now he's back, very solid shortstop. You also have a couple of young guys who could be really good. You have Jazz Chisholm, who's one of the best prospects in baseball at second base, who I think is going to be a pretty solid player. You have Garrett Cooper, who is a DH, so you got to figure out where to put him, but he's got some power. They kind of revived Jesus Aguilar's career last year. It's actually pretty good for them. But I think the Marlins can manufacture runs, and as we talked about before, I think the rotation could actually give you 6 or 7 strong in some spots. So
manufacture runs, by the way, is a fancy way of saying the offense is shitty, but they might score some runs unexpectedly at some point.
I'm saying, though, that I think it's important.
They don't hit for power. They don't run fast. They don't take walks, but they.
In their defense, though, nobody really hits for power in Marlins Park. So that kind of balances out. That's still, that stadium is such a disaster for scoring runs. That is so bad for scoring runs. But I actually like the over for the Marlins. I think that this team is bad, but they're not awful. I think Baltimore is awful. I think that they're on different tiers.
I agree with that.
I think the Marlins will win.
Words.
I think I'll give the Marlins 74 wins.
3 words to describe this Marlins team. First 5 under. Okay. That's it.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does. I'll play over 71.5 there.
After all that, you're giving me the okie doke?
I told you I like the pitching. You give me pitching and you're in every game, buddy.
I think 74 to 76 is where they'll probably end up.
I think 76 may be a little wildly optimistic. I think you're 73, 74, somewhere in that neighborhood. I don't know. I don't know against the rest of this division where you're stealing a bunch of wins.
But just to run through the win totals, I like the Braves over.
Okay.
I got to remember what the Mets are, though. What are the Mets again? 90.5 under. I like the Mets under.
Yep.
Phillies, I'll take the over at 80.5. I think 80.5 is too low.
Okay.
I think the Nationals are a little bit too high at 84.5. I really think they're going to be around 500.
Wrong.
And I like the Marlins over. So Braves over, Mets under, Phillies over, Nationals under, and Marlins over.
We agree on everything except the Nationals.
Yep.
Okay. And your second choice, if it's not the Mets, your long shot is Philly.
For value, it has to be the Phillies. The Phillies at around 8.5 to 1.
Yeah.
It should really be around 6.
That is tremendous value. I would have to admit that, even though they're not my first choice for a long shot. That's Washington +6. So, all right, buddy, that's going to do it. That's enough. That's enough baseball for one day.
And we're going to do the Centrals tomorrow.
Yeah, we're going to do the Centrals tomorrow. So we're looking forward to that. As always, we appreciate you guys watching, and we got some seam heads out there. Scott and I love the handicap baseball. We had a good time last year. We're looking forward to a full season with maybe some people in the crowds playing in their home stadiums. That'll be nice. That'll be fun. So we appreciate it as always. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. And, of course, don't forget to tell your friends and neighbors all about how much fun you have over here at the Winners and Winers YouTube channel. For myself, for Scott Reichel, for all of us over here at Winners and Winers. Once again, thanks for watching. Appreciate each and every one of you. Wishing you nothing but the best of luck today. Hope every one of those tickets in your pocket turns into cash money back of the window. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow on Today in Sports Betting. Take care.